I'm Betty. Welcome to my kitchen.
The cookie I want to share with you today, I call Christmas pudding truffles. It's the perfect cookie if you need to have a cookie and you don't like to bake, since there is no baking involved. So here are the ingredients. I've got a 10-ounce pound cake that I've cut up into fairly small cubes. You can use a 10 to 12-ounce pound cake. And store-bought is fine for this because you're going to add a lot of other ingredients. And the other ingredients are 2 ounces of butter together with a 1/4 cup of sugar. We've got 3 ounces of ground almonds, a 1/4 teaspoon of almond flavoring, a tablespoon of rum flavoring, 2 tablespoons of cocoa that I've sifted, and I've got 10 ounces of chocolate ready for melting when I finally dip these cookies. And an extra that I'm adding this year is going to be a little ball of marzipan in the center of each cookie. I was thinking about these the other night as I was trying to go to sleep and thinking, I bet I could do something to make these just a little better. And this is what I came up with. So here we go. The first thing we're going to do is pulverize this pound cake into crumbs in the food processor. So that just takes a moment to turn this into these fine crumbs. And we'll just set these aside for a moment and get on with the rest of it. Our first step will be to cream the butter, which is at room temperature, and the sugar together until they're light and fluffy. You'll know you've reached about the right consistency once it comes together in a cohesive mass. And with that done, I'm going to add the almond flour, the cocoa powder, and the almond extract. Just start this off on low. And that's fairly well mixed. I'm going to add in my rum and then finally the cake crumbs. And we'll just give this a mix until it's well blended. There, that looks well mixed and ready to start shaping into our truffles. In order to get the cookies uniform, and really this is also a very quick way of doing them, I'm using a small ice cream scoop. It's about, I would say, 1.5 teaspoons. And I'm just going to scoop a few of these out. And then I'm going to take one of these little marzipan balls and put it in the dough and just sort of squish that all around and give it a roll. And there. Once I get them all done, I'm going to melt some chocolate and dip them and then give them their final decoration. All right, once the chocolate is almost melted, I like to stir it until it's there all the way. This is a really simple way of tempering chocolate so that it stays glossy. Just continue stirring until it's nice and smooth. And I think we're just about, well, I see a little lump there. So I'm ready to start dipping my truffles. And I've got a little chocolate dipper. If you don't have one of these, certainly you can use a couple of forks and that'll work well. I just want to give that a nice coating, scrape off the bottom a little, and then I'm going to use my fork to just edge that off. And we'll just continue dipping these. And once they're set, we'll decorate them. I'm going to show you the decoration I use for what I call my Christmas pudding truffle, but there are other decorations you can use also if you prefer something a little plainer. Christmas pudding, of course, is a British tradition and one that I grew up with. And what it is essentially is usually a dark, very fruity pudding, and it's decorated with some brandy sauce, which is a pale yellow whitish sauce, and usually decorated with a couple of sprigs of holly. So you'll see why I call these Christmas pudding truffles. I'm going to be decorating these cookies, and I'm going to be using a little white melted chocolate. And I'm going to make a cone to use. When I'm done with it, I can just throw it away instead of using a plastic or something else that I'm going to have to clean out. So all I'm going to do is take some wax paper, fold it in half, and just fold it into a cone shape with a good sharp tip. And then I'll take a little piece of tape and put that right along the seam to hold it. I'm going to pop that in a glass, and I've got some melted white chocolate. Now, we melted the dark chocolate at 50% power. White chocolate is infinitely more delicate, and so you want to melt that at most at power 3 or use the defrost setting on your microwave. Just going to scoop that into this cone. So I'll just fold the top of this over, and now I want a fine tip, so I'm just going to snip the tiniest bit off the end of this cone. And that's going to drizzle out. So what I'm going to do is just drizzle this over to look like a sauce that's been put on top of my truffle. Just get a little to look like it's going down the sides there. Do that and just fill it in. They don't have to be too perfect. Believe me, the taste of this is just so wonderful, especially with that little bit of marzipan in the middle. It makes a huge difference. But of course, if you don't have it, they're still quite good without it. To finish off the decoration, I've just mixed a little bit of confectioner's sugar with a drop or two of milk. I want this to be quite stiff. I'm going to put just a drop in there, which I'll tint red to make our holly berries. And to this batch, I'm going to add some green food coloring. Now, these are not going to be perfect holly leaves by any stretch of the imagination, but it just will sort of give the general idea. And it's really bright, but we're only going to be using a tiny bit. So I've got my cone all ready, and I'll just scoop this green icing in there. And there we go. Squeeze that down, and again, I'm just going to snip a tiny corner off the end of this. And I'll start, I'm just going to make a few little drizzles on top. I think we'll do 3 on each. As I said, I know it does not look like holly, but once we get the red berries on there, I think people will get the idea. And here's the red for our holly berries. Just need a little tiny bit for this. And we're just going to decorate with this with a few little dots. And there, I think you get the idea that this looks quite a bit like a lovely Christmas pudding. Of course, if you don't want to decorate it this way, feel free to do anything you like. You could put just some colored sprinkles on top while the chocolate is still wet, little stars, whatever strikes your fancy. Christmas pudding truffles, done. Give them a try.